So undoubtedly you clicked on this video because you saw sheep's head in the title, and well, you're about to be very surprised. The American Heart Association recommends that you eat 2 servings at the very least of fish per week. Yes, I did say fish. I did not say sheep's head because I'm as confused as you are. We're going to make sheep's head with drawn butter today. That's out of the original White House cookbook, and it's not sheep's head. Spoiler alert, it's actually fish. Why is it called that? We're gonna try and find out, and in the meantime, hopefully have some steamed fish with drawn butter. Let's see how this recipe works. The recipe calls for an hour cook time, but I'll be honest with you, I don't buy it because remember in the last video, here, it's up here if you're curious, when I was talking about the difference between a wood burning stove and a 21st century stove like what we have here, cook times vary a lot. Now, the temperature doesn't really vary, but the point is the variables of the temperature and how it rises to that temperature are very different in our standard oven today than they were even just 100 years ago. The way that we brought the temperature up in a wood burning stove versus how we do it today is very different and much less concentrated than today's gas stove that we're working on. And so I suspect it's maybe only gonna take a half an hour. Those are pretty big fish fillets though, at least comparably with what I usually buy. I'm gonna check them at a half an hour, and then if I need to turn them around, because again, they're bigger than the pot can handle on its own, they might have to steam for a little bit longer than that. But I'm gonna guess a half an hour and then we'll go from there. Now, the interesting thing is that while this is cooking, then we need to create the drawn butter recipe, which really seems to me to be a roux with parsley. Also, side note, it seems to be a lot more extra work than is necessary for a roux because I'm making little balls of butter and flour. I'll go ahead and do the procedure that it says in the cookbook just because it seems like a lot of fun, and I want to see whether or not it would be different to a standard roux, which is honestly just butter that you melt and then you put things into it like flour and then maybe milk or water in order to create a sauce. Let's see how it turns out. I was absolutely right on the money on this one. The fish is almost over steamed. It's very flaky and it probably didn't even need to be steamed that long. I put it in for a half an hour. I'd say probably 20 to 25 minutes would be just fine. It is ready and I guess it's time to try it. So let's take a little test, shall we? There it is. You can kind of start to see why they call it sheep's head. It definitely looks fluffy. I don't know if that's why. Still doing research on that. I'll get back to you in another part of this video. Oh hey, Editor Tara here. So after a quick search for why on earth a simple recipe of fish that's steamed with butter sauce would ever be called sheep's head, well, it turns out that sheep's head is a type of fish. And not just any fish. The reason why it's called sheep's head is because, and I had no idea, and I could hardly even believe this myself until I saw the photos, that sheep's heads bear a very striking resemblance to, well, sheep. And not only that, but the teeth in the front that make their heads shaped that way also bear a striking resemblance to human teeth. I hope that that's fueled your nightmares for today. And not only that, but it also means that the recipe was actually calling for a specific type of fish. And of course in this recipe I used cod, which if you want the full recipe, you can look in the link below. But because I used cod, then I suppose that this isn't the most accurate representation of the recipe, but it also means that housewives in the 19th century had to have more than a cursory knowledge of how each of the different fish should be prepared and what kind of fish they were. So this can be vitally important if you're in the Mediterranean fishing, because you might come across what's called the Salema porgy, which is a fish that can literally induce nightmares. And if you think that I am exaggerating, look it up for yourself. It is a very strange phenomenon that has happened in the modern age. This is not an ancient thing. So make sure you know your fish before you go fishing. Now, anyway, let's get back to the recipe. So now let's go ahead and take a taste. Well, it's obviously fish, it's cod, and it's steamed, so it's very soft and flaky. The butter's good and has a very distinct lemon flavor, which complements the fish quite well. I think I would have liked more of the sauce because this is a little bit sparse on it and it only just hints at the flavor. which makes it a teeny bit bland. So yeah, doubling the sauce in my recipe, which by the way, you can find for yourself on oldfashionedaf.com on the blog portion, and everything that you need to be able to make this recipe yourself with some more streamlined instructions is right there. I'd say that if you like fish, you'll definitely like this recipe. And I would like to thank you for watching. If you would like to become a member of the Crafty Club, then you can do so in the link below. That's at patreon.com/oldfashioned_AF. And you'll get a free email from me once, maybe sometimes more per month. And it usually has all of my favorite links in there, or some inside information about what's happening behind the scenes here at our humble abode. And so I will see you soon for another video. Bye!